Y'all, Crystal Evans' story has so many wild turns and twists, and honestly, it's very disturbing.
September 13th, 2024. A 44-year-old businesswoman walks out of a Georgia courthouse after attending her ex-husband's probation hearing. Minutes later, she was attacked in broad daylight right across the street from the building where she'd just begged for protection. The man who harmed her? The same man she'd exposed on Facebook months earlier for allegedly cheating with other men during their 27-year marriage. Crystal Evans thought social media would save her life by creating what she called a paper trail, but Tom Mallory had other plans. Before we get too deep, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you find value in these discussions. Crystal and Tom Mallory had known each other since they were kids, growing up in the same small Georgia town. This kind of familiarity made falling in love feel natural, and in 1997, they decided to tie the knot. For years, their marriage looked successful from the outside. They had children, took beautiful vacations, and had built a business together called T&K Contracting Incorporated, a construction company in Griffin, Georgia. They appeared to have built a solid life. Crystal shared glimpses of their life on social media, family trips, business milestones, birthday celebrations. She appeared to be a woman who had it all. But marriages that look perfect on social media often tell a different story behind closed doors. The first cracks in their relationship started with infidelity. Tom began having affairs with other women, and Crystal discovered his cheating. The betrayal hurt her, but she made a choice that many women in her situation make. She tried to forgive him and keep the family together. In 2020, Crystal made a Facebook post. She wrote about how she had planned to end their marriage at the beginning of that year, but claimed that God had different plans for them. According to her post, they had totally fallen back in love with each other over and over again. She spoke about their journey together and how they were still going strong by the grace of God. People close to Crystal knew she had caught Tom cheating before, but her friends say she found a way to forgive him because of the kind of person she was. She believed in second chances, in working through problems, in the power of love to overcome obstacles. Crystal was someone who invested her whole heart into the people and things she cared about. For a while, it seemed like maybe they had worked things out. Crystal continued building their business, caring for their family, and presenting a united front to the world. But Tom's behavior eventually escalated beyond what even Crystal's forgiving nature could handle. The real bombshell came when Crystal discovered that Tom's affairs weren't just with women. She allegedly found out that her husband of 27 years had been secretly involved with men throughout their marriage. This revelation shattered everything Crystal thought she knew about the man she'd spent years with. She later shared on social media that Tom had been using money from their business, money that she had largely earned and managed, to buy cars for men he was seeing and take them on vacations. She posted about her confusion, writing, "I did not realize when being down low, you brag on being a top or bottom man, or one holds more weight than the other. I am so confused. Why is the one at home always the last to know? Out here buying men cars and stuff, I guess I was on the wrong team." The discovery that Tom had been living what appeared to be a double life for years was devastating for Crystal. She made the decision to file for divorce. But what came next would prove even more dangerous. Tom Mallory allegedly became a completely different person. The man who had been content to let Crystal run their business and their lives suddenly became obsessed with controlling and punishing her for trying to leave. What drove Tom to such extreme violence when Crystal tried to leave? And how did the system fail to protect her despite all her efforts to document the threats? By 2022, Crystal had made her decision. She quietly filed for divorce, hoping to end their marriage. But her public revelations on social media may have already triggered something dangerous in Tom. He became angry, bitter, and increasingly unpredictable. Crystal soon discovered that filing for divorce wouldn't guarantee her safety. Tom's need to maintain control over Crystal drove him to escalate his threatening behavior. He became volatile and vengeful as he realized he was losing power over her. Crystal continued trying to establish boundaries. She made another Facebook post directly addressing Tom, telling him to leave her and their children alone. She called him a sick man and demanded he stay away from them. That's when the stalking began. Tom started following Crystal everywhere she went. He would show up at her home unannounced and even followed their children around. Crystal was terrified, and she began posting desperate pleas for help on social media. In one post, she wrote directly to Tom, "Tom, stay away from us. You are a sick man. Leave us alone. This is sad. "Please leave us alone." But Tom's harassment only escalated. He allegedly stole Crystal's car, forcing her to make another social media post asking anyone who found it to report it to the police. When she finally got the vehicle back, she immediately had it repainted. Crystal also had to involve law enforcement to retrieve business equipment that Tom had taken. She posted a video showing herself with police officers as they recovered her trucks, which appeared to be undamaged.
These trucks were not damaged. They look just fine.
Tom also allegedly engaged in financial abuse. He sold shared property without Crystal's consent and attempted to forge a deed to her house using what Crystal claimed was a stolen notary stamp. According to Crystal, he made threats about harming her so his daughters would inherit the home. In February 2023, when confronted about breaking into her property, Tom allegedly retaliated by cutting off Crystal's water, power, and internet. Crystal posted that he even slid under the house to eavesdrop on her conversations, then began taunting her with disturbing threats. Crystal took to social media almost monthly for 2 years, documenting Tom's behavior and letting everyone know he was making serious threats against her. She said he made these threats to her face and even mentioned them to mutual acquaintances. In one of her most urgent Facebook posts, Crystal wrote, "It's sad that I have to walk around terrified for my life and my children's. I know if something happens to me, please know who did it. This man has said numerous times that he is going to harm me. I am posting and trying to leave a paper trail. This man is extremely dangerous. I have plenty people who have heard him say this, and he has told me this too. Leave me alone." Fortunately, Crystal wasn't completely alone during this terrifying period. Friends and family witnessed many of Tom's threatening actions. She gathered affidavits, testimonials, and evidence from her children, friends, and neighbors who had seen his behavior firsthand. In August 2024, Crystal sought an emergency protective order, detailing Tom's harassment and alleged illegal actions in official court documents. Finally, on September 11, 2024, Judge Benjamin Cooker granted the protective order, barring Tom from coming within 500 yards of Crystal. But Crystal wanted more than just a piece of paper. She begged Judge Cooker to approve Tom's immediate arrest, stating clearly that her life was in danger. The judge refused this request, instead instructing that Tom should turn himself in voluntarily. Judge Cooker expected Crystal to be satisfied with just the protective order and custody of some of their shared properties. This legal protection proved insufficient to keep Crystal safe. Just days after the court ruling, Crystal posted another urgent plea on Facebook. She told the public that if something happened to her, they should know Tom Mallory did it, because he didn't seem ready to back down. She explained her constant need to document everything online, saying she was trying to leave a paper trail because Tom was an extremely dangerous man. Despite all these warnings, numerous calls to the sheriff's office, many of which allegedly came from her own daughter, decisive action to protect Crystal wasn't made. The tragic irony is that Crystal had done everything people tell domestic violence victims to do. She documented the threats, she called the police, she got a protective order. She tried to create evidence of the danger she was facing, yet the system still failed to keep her safe. On September 13, 2024, just 2 days after receiving her protective order, Crystal made a decision to attend a court hearing at the Spalding County Courthouse in Griffin, Georgia. The hearing wasn't for her, it was for Tom, who had been accused of forging financial documents and violating his probation. Crystal didn't have to be there, but she chose to attend, possibly to see justice served, or to ensure her voice was heard in the proceedings. To protect herself, Crystal convinced her daughter Precious and a close friend to accompany her to the courthouse. She wasn't taking any chances, knowing how dangerous Tom had become. Crystal, her daughter Precious, and her friend attended the hearing together. The proceedings went smoothly, and Crystal had taken the precaution of bringing support with her to the courthouse. Before the proceedings were completely over, Precious left the courtroom because she had an appointment to get to. Crystal was now with just her friend for support. According to the sources, Crystal's friend asked a court clerk to get a deputy to escort Crystal out of the building for her safety. The clerk never followed through on this request. When no help came from courthouse staff, Crystal and her friend waited inside the building until they were sure Tom had left first. Then Crystal walked to her car. Crystal said goodbye to her friend, and surveillance cameras captured her as she walked alone toward her vehicle parked across the street from the courthouse. Tom was waiting in his car in the courthouse parking lot. According to surveillance footage, he had positioned himself where he could see Crystal when she left the building. When Crystal emerged from the courthouse, Tom was positioned in his vehicle nearby. According to police reports, he then attacked her from his car window. People in the area immediately sought safety when they heard the incident. Crystal was injured, and Tom immediately sped away from the scene. The courthouse was filled with law enforcement officers, and both Griffin police and Spalding County deputies immediately responded to pursue him. Police pursued Tom through Griffin until they were able to stop him and surround his vehicle and ordered him to come out. Tom instead harmed himself and was injured. Officers immediately worked to get him out of the car and rushed him to the hospital. He was in critical condition, but would survive his injuries. Back at the courthouse, deputies were simultaneously working to save Crystal. They did everything they could to help her, but their efforts were unsuccessful. When Precious visited the hospital later, doctors informed her that her father would survive his injuries. This meant Tom would eventually recover and face the consequences of his actions, though many people felt this provided little comfort given what had happened to Crystal. The aftermath of this tragedy sparked immediate outrage from the community and her family. Despite years of documented threats, stalking, and violence, Crystal's desperate pleas for help had been largely ignored by the system meant to protect her. Precious was particularly angry about law enforcement's response. She publicly criticized the Spalding County Sheriff's Department, pointing out that her mother had called them just the day before the shooting to report Tom's continued stalking behavior, and they had done nothing to help. Sheriff Daryl Dix eventually felt compelled to address the public backlash with a lengthy statement defending his department's handling of the situation. His response, however, only made many people angrier. According to Sheriff Dix, the department had received multiple domestic violence calls to Tom and Crystal's residence over the years, but each time deputies arrived, both parties would disagree about who started the fights. He claimed that on occasions when witnesses were present and interviewed, those witnesses either didn't see anything or said events didn't happen as either Tom or Crystal described them. The sheriff insisted that there were times when Crystal claimed Tom hit her or threatened her with a gun, and other times when Tom claimed Crystal had gotten upset with him and even shot at him. Sheriff Dix characterized their relationship as toxic and claimed that both parties had caused mutual damage during fights. Sheriff Dix also addressed the controversy about Crystal allegedly being denied a courthouse escort. He stated that his deputies were never actually asked to escort Crystal to her car, claiming that Crystal's friend had asked a court clerk, not a deputy, for help. He said video footage from the courthouse lobby showed Crystal walking past deputies without asking for assistance. The sheriff's statement emphasized that law enforcement's authority and actions are limited by existing laws and judicial decisions. He deflected responsibility to the legal system itself, suggesting that any failures were due to inadequate laws rather than poor police work. Sheriff Dix concluded his statement by pointing out that the same deputies who allegedly refused to help Crystal were the ones who tried to save her life after the incident. He maintained that no one was choosing sides or playing favorites, and that deputies must base their actions on facts and evidence rather than popularity or social media followers. This defensive response from law enforcement only increased public anger and criticism. Many people felt the sheriff was making excuses rather than taking responsibility for failing to protect a woman who had repeatedly warned that she was in serious danger. This tragedy highlighted the gap between legal protections on paper and actual safety in practice, raising difficult questions about how society can better protect domestic violence victims before it's too late. Crystal's story became a tragic example of how domestic violence victims can do everything right: document threats, call police, obtain protective orders, create paper trails, and still not receive adequate protection when the system fails to take decisive action. I hope these stories help you recognize warning signs and encourage you to seek help or offer support before it's too late. I'll see you in the next episode of Crime of Passion. Thank you for watching.
Hell yeah, I'm a queen. So you know what that means. I water my own grass so it always stays green. And I keep my crown on even if it's unseen. See, royalty is in my blood. I'm blessed, but I still get it out the mud. I got God's plan, that's real love. So failure ain't even something I'm thinking of. The purpose of me is far too great to sit and hope and wish and wait. A queen expands what she creates, walking fearlessly towards her divine fate. I'm a monarch, and I know how to fly. When y'all go low, I'm already on high. When y'all try me, there's no need for a reply. I see and feel everything through my third eye. On days when I feel like I don't fit the genre, I hype myself up when I really don't wanna. Reminding my soul, you're beautiful, mama. You got a nice ass and some good fucking karma. Some days we'll have to adjust our crown. It starts to slip when we feel like we're down. Plant your feet in the earth and find solid ground. You're a queen, baby girl. Go make yourself proud. Hell yeah, I'm a queen. So you know what that means. I water my own grass so it always